Hello students and welcome to our YouTube channel Harish Nagar English Language and Literature, where we bring out the wisdom of the past. And today guys, we embark on a journey through the life and philosophy of one of the history's most influential figure, Aristotle. Guys, Aristotle's ideas have left an permanent mark on the world, and his life was a remarkable journey filled with knowledge, innovation, and profound insights. Guys, in this video, we will delve into the life of Aristotle and explore his groundbreaking philosophical theories. So let's get started, guys. So remember, guys, Aristotle is the father of criticism, and Dryden called him the father of criticism. Guys, remember this thing that Aristotle is the great teacher of Alexander the Great, and Aristotle was student of Plato. Now, it is believed that Plato was an idealist while Aristotle was a realist. And Aristotle was of the view that the present society and the rules which are being developed are contrary to the rules which was set by the ancients. Students, I will make it easy for you. Remember, Plato's students, Aristotle was not with the ideology which is given by Plato, because Plato said that there should be no poetry, and if there is a poetry, it should only be praise good people. That means it should sing hymns. Hymns means the praising of gods. But according to Aristotle, the first aim of poetry is to please. Now, Plato said that the aim of poetry is to instruct. So whenever we use poetry, it should always give some instruction. But Aristotle says no. The first aim of poetry is to please, or you can say to delight, or to give comfort, then teaching. So remember this thing, guys. If they ask you a question in net exam that according to Aristotle, what are the two things important, or which one is the most important thing, then to please or to make someone comfortable or delightment, that is the first thing. Now students, you tell me, what do you think? What should be the task of poetry, to please or to give the message? Well, poetry is developed into the songs. So what do you think? Just like Bollywood songs, they should give you the message, or they should just make you feel delight. So you must have got ideas. Many of you will say no or yes. Yeah, that means they should give message. Like I remember a song. Have you heard? पंछी नदियां पवन के झोंके, कोई सरहद ना इन्हें रोके, सरहदें इंसानों के लिए हैं, सोचो फिर तुमने और मैंने क्या पाया इंसान होके. And then what about those who will say yes, enlightenment is required? They say that message are not that much important. For example, I have seen a song recently, and says the words are लज्जा लज्जा तेनू सात समंदरा पार तोहफे विच दे के हार तेनू खूब करा मैं प्यार बिल्लो बत्तियां बुझा के. So do we have a great message here? It may be greatness for some people, but I feel that it should please actually. Guys, instruction can be given in prose language. So Aristotle says that if we have to give instruction, or the primary motto of the poetry is to instruct, then there will be no preference given to poetry. For example, suppose you are driving and you have certain signboard. So why somebody will write on the signboard in poetic language? If somebody has to give you the direct instruction, for example, if you driving and there is someone who is singing आपका ध्यान किधर है, left तो इधर है, so we feel wow, what's a rhyming? But you say, why did you say directly, or what is the need of poetic language? So that is the thing, that if we focus that poetry should instruct, then there will be no use of rhyming, no use of mixing. Poetic sensibility should not needed. We can simply write it. So Aristotle was of the view that poetry is to delight first, then it may instruct in the process of the delightment. Now students, Aristotle is the man who has written a work called Poetics, most important work, and Poetic has 26 chapters and dealing with tragedy, epic poetry, comedy and history. Remember this thing, guys. In chapter 1 to 5, he talk about epic poetry. You make sure you write down these things. In poetics, Aristotle talk about epic poetry, tragedy, comedy, poetic diction, history, and then in chapter 1 to 5, he talk about epic poetry. Chapter 6 to 19. Remember, there are 14 chapters from 6 to 19. It is completely dedicated to tragedy. Now, chapter number 20 to chapter number 22, he talks about poetic diction. And then 23, 24, and 25, here we have comparison. And in chapter 26, the supremacy of tragedy is reestablished. So this is how, you have to remember. Now we talk about the Plato's concept of epic poetry and all. So he simply talk about the epic poetry that talk about the universal truth and pleases all. It should have, it should have tragedy. But student, we don't need to go in the depth of epic poetry concept, because we all know that Aristotle talk about tragedy and poetics is a kind of a rule book. Now my question comes to you, why it is related to about why it is related to tragedy, why he is not talking about drama, why is not using the word play, he is simply using the word tragedy, the ideal tragic hero, or you can say the ideal tragedy, the concept of tragedy. So what happens here, guys? These Greek writers are of the view that tragedy is only form of drama, and they did not like comedy. Now you will say, no sir, Aristophanes has written comedies like Frogs, Clouds, Wasp, etc. Yes, he has written, but Aristophanes was collectively hated by Euripides, Sophocles, Aristotle, and others. That means, according to Aristotle, there should be no comedy at all. Now question comes, why is he hating comedy? Okay, now take 10 seconds and tell me, do we have any kind of comedy where nobody gets hurt mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Do we have any type of comedy where nobody gets hurt? For example, when Kapil Sharma cracks jokes, he makes fun of someone who is being ridiculed, someone who is being targeted, someone who is being humiliated. Even in the simplest comedy, Tom and Jerry cartoon, one is being bitten, one is being tortured. And comedy of, if you think about Charlie Chaplin, you will find that Charlie Chaplin beats someone using the stick, you can say stick, and the slap, which is also Shakespearean style of slapstick comedy. So in short, guys, there is no comedy which appears without causing any kind of trouble or trouble to anyone. Remember students, there is a concept in Indian scriptures that there are three types of violence. It is in Hindi actually. Remember, there are three types of hinsa, manas, vacha or karmana. Three type of hinsa is manas, vacha, karmana. That means man se, vachan se or karmo se. So you cause violence using some act, some bad thoughts or some bad words. So there are lots of comedies. They do that really. So this was the reason that the great classical writer, they were of the view that comedy separate us. It creates problem between us, and tragedy, tragedy which result in that is the only truth make us together. Tragedy is common for all of us. We all, living a life where we have tragedies. We all those who are watching my video, we all have certain tragedies. We all have certain pains. So when we sing tragedies, when we talk about tragedies, that is the only truth. And even the, end of the life itself is a death. That means the end is death. That is a tragic thing. So he says that tragedy will unite us. That is the reason the poets, the playwright, they should talk about tragedy, because that is the only truth. So he talks about tragedy and he says that an ideal tragedy, we have, 6 essential parts: plot, character, thought, diction, music, and spectators. Don't forget the arrangement of the orders. These are the same order. Don't change order. Remember, plot, character, thought, diction, music, and spectator. He talk about plot and he says that the plot is the soul of tragedy and there can be no tragedy possible without a plot. Remember, in net exam, they simply ask you that out of these, which is called the soul of tragedy? It is plot, guys. And remember, without plot, there can be no tragedy. He says that, plots are of two types: simple plot and complex plot. Now, technically, plot is a raw material when we develop the story. For example, if I tell you the plot of Bahubali, so it was like two brothers, one hates another one, he plot against him and finally get him killed. Then his son comes and fight and takes the throne back. Now it's just a plot or a raw material. Now students, after this we have characters, thoughts, language, dressings and everything. And then we develop the whole story. So plot is technically the first story or the raw story. Now two types of plot, remember guys: complex plot and simple plot. He says that complex plot has round character. Now, the concept of round and flat character, many of you will say that round and flat character is a term coined by E.M. Foster. Yes, I know that in his work, in 7 aspects of novel. Now, remember this thing that I am using the language of E.M. Foster. Flat character and round characters. Flat characters are whose characters? Those who have been assigned a particular role and they are doing the same role. For example, in Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra is a flat character. For example, he has been given the role of a blind man who is in certain condition, cannot do anything, cannot take any decision. He's just only watching the tragedy, or you can say tragic things happening. But the other characters, the Duryodhan is a round character. Sometimes he appears, to be good, and sometimes he pretends some things he does not do that thing. And one more character, Shakuni, is also a round character. Now guys, let's go to some famous thing that will help you to understand. Let's take an example of King Lear. Now guys, King Lear is a round character. Earlier he was a proud, egoistic king, then deceived by his own daughter, and then become a beggar or mad old, despised king. So he is a round character. But his any attendant, any of his friends or anyone, they are simply the flat character. So remember this thing guys, the direct role which has been assigned and then there is no suspense, no sudden change in the role, it makes them flat and round character. If we talk about Shakespeare Hamlet, in this play, Hamlet himself is a round character. How? Hamlet keeps on changing his ideology. So he is a round character. And on the other hand, Hamlet's friend, Horatio, is a flat character. Other than that, his uncle Claudius is a flat character. It does what his role is. So, according to Aristotle, simple plot should have flat characters. A complex plot has round characters. Along with these things, there are certain other elements employed in complex plot. It should have hamartia. Now, question comes, what is hamartia? Hamartia is, simply a tragic flow. In the words of A.C. Bradley, he calls it tragic flow. It has also been called fatal flow. Now, remember this thing, guys. I call it error of judgment and virtue in excess. Both are the words used by the professors. Now, suppose you are a good man or a good girl and you have a habit of helping everyone, and then you help someone, trusting the person, but you got deceived. And so what is your reason of being a tragic person, or you have been victimized? Why did you get that? Because you were bad? No, because you were too good. So being too good is hamartia. For example guys, Macbeth is ambitious. We all are ambitious, but Macbeth is highly ambitious. His ambition, result in his own death. Let's take another example. Othello loves his wife. Everybody loves his wife. But then Othello is overpossessive. So these are the human traits, and hamartia is human traits, but in excess. And they change the story because it results in tragedy. So suppose you have a habit of helping all the elders and someone comes to you and says, hey, I am trying to unlock the box and I am your elder, please help me. And suppose you help the elder and then you got to know that that elder was actually a thief, and then you are also arrested by the police. So that simply means that it became your hamartia, right guys? So after this you should have perpetua. Perpetua is reversal of fortune, from good to bad, from bad to good. That means you are doing something good, but the condition is all of a sudden has turned upside down. For example, King Lear, he was a great king. He had, 100 kings under his command. Then he became a beggar. So after hamartia, perpetua will come. Then we have an agnosis. So agnosis is the journey when you come to know about your mistake. Like we take the example of Oedipus, written by Sophocles. Oedipus is the great king. His kingdom is facing a great famine. He calls all the fortune tellers, and then Tiresias comes to him and tells him that the king himself is the reason of this curse. So this is called agnosis. When the king comes to know that he himself is the reason for the curse. So a journey from ignorance to knowledge. The moment when you come to know about your fault, like Hamlet, he realizes that it is too late. His uncle is already prepared when he kills the two spices, Rosington and Guildenstern. He realizes that I have wasted a lot of time. And then Othello, after killing his wife Desdemona, when the Lady Emily says, oh, horror, 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 tongue not hurt, cannot conceive, nor name thee. He realized his mistakes. So this is called agnosis. In my next lecture, I will continue after this. Students, if you are thirst for more knowledge about Aristotle's philosophy or any other historical topics, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We love to engage in meaningful discussion, so please share your thoughts and questions in the comment below. Thanks you for joining us on this expedition in the world of Aristotle, a philosopher, a scientist, and thinker for the ages. Remember, guys, knowledge is a beacon guiding us through the past, present, and future. Stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop seeking the truth. Until next time, keep thinking critically. Thank you, students.